What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton's fury at Ferrari in Baku wasn't actually about losing pole position? What if the real scandal was that Ferrari had the evidence to avoid this disaster completely, but chose to ignore it? And what if this tire blunder reveals a pattern that could cost Hamilton his entire championship dream in red? The newly surfaced evidence from Azerbaijan doesn't just explain Hamilton's rage, it exposes a deeper problem that's been eating away at Ferrari's chances all season long. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why Hamilton's 8-word radio message after qualifying might have been the moment that changed everything. Let's start with what actually happened in Baku, because the timeline reveals just how catastrophic Ferrari's decision-making really was. According to the latest reports, Hamilton had topped FP2 with a lap that was quicker than last year's pole position. For the first time all season, he looked like the Hamilton we remember, fluid, precise, and devastatingly fast. The evidence shows that Hamilton went into qualifying believing he finally had the tools to challenge for something special. The SF25 was working with him, not against him. Ferrari's own data confirmed they had front-row pace, and the entire paddock was buzzing about a potential Ferrari resurgence. But then came the decision that changed everything. The newly revealed details show that Ferrari committed to sending Hamilton out on the softer C6 tires while most of the front runners, including his own teammate Charles Leclerc, were banking their hopes on mediums. The theory was that the softs would deliver instant grip, but in reality, they were a trap. Hamilton himself admitted afterwards that he wanted to be on mediums. He knew what would work best. But he was told by the team that fuel levels and warm-up times made that option impossible. Think about that for a moment. A 7-time world champion telling his team what he needs and being overruled by strategists who got it completely wrong. The C6 compounds overheated almost instantly on the narrow, high-loaded corners of Baku. Hamilton wrestled the car through every turn, but it was hopeless. The tires weren't suited to the conditions, and his lap time fell over 7/10 short of Lando Norris's benchmark. But here's where this story gets really shocking, because what happened next reveals a pattern that could define Hamilton's entire Ferrari chapter. And the evidence that's just emerged suggests this wasn't an isolated mistake, but part of something much more concerning. The most damaging part of this whole episode wasn't just the tire choice. It was how it exposed Ferrari's operational weaknesses at the worst possible moment. Hamilton's elimination wasn't down to driver error or lack of pace. This was a blunder in strategy, pure and simple. According to the reports, it was Charles Leclerc who delivered the knockout blow, stringing together a lap on the mediums that nudged Hamilton out of the top 10. For Hamilton, this wasn't just disappointing, it was devastating. To be eliminated in Q2 was bad enough, but to have it come at the hands of a teammate using the compound he himself had requested, that felt like betrayal. The psychological impact on Hamilton is profound. He's spoken many times about how alien the SF25 feels, how he's had to compromise his natural driving style just to keep the car on edge. This weekend was supposed to be different, the first time he felt like the car was working with him rather than against him. Fred Vasseur tried to downplay the incident, insisting that positives could still be taken from Hamilton's pace and that the issue would be dealt with internally. But he couldn't disguise the reality. This was a catastrophic own goal by Ferrari, the kind of error that has haunted them for decades. For Ferrari fans who traveled to Azerbaijan full of renewed hope after seeing Hamilton dominate practice, it was a familiar nightmare. Another Ferrari driver let down by another Ferrari blunder. They know Hamilton is still capable of greatness, and they know he's giving everything to this project. But the evidence suggests this Baku disaster might actually be the wake-up call Ferrari desperately needed, because Hamilton's reaction to this mistake could change everything about how the team operates for the rest of the season. Hamilton's fury wasn't just about one qualifying session. It was about wasted opportunity. the sense that Ferrari's mistakes were once again costing him the chance to prove himself at the very front. For a driver who thrives on control and execution, being undone by a call from the pit wall is a nightmare scenario. The timing couldn't have been worse. With Mercedes breathing down their necks in the constructors' standings and McLaren growing stronger by the race, Ferrari needed to show they could match operational excellence with raw speed. Instead, they proved that even when they had the pace, they still found ways to trip over themselves. What makes this even more significant is Hamilton's admission that he knew the mediums were the right choice. This wasn't a case of hindsight being 20/20. This was a driver with decades of experience being overruled by a team that got their calculations wrong. The evidence shows that Ferrari's explanation, that fuel levels and warm-up times made the mediums impossible, sounded like poor planning rather than strategic thinking. It meant Ferrari had backed themselves into a corner with no flexibility, no margin, and no way to adjust when it mattered most. For Hamilton, who left Mercedes to take this gamble with Ferrari, it was yet another reminder that the dream of glory in red risks being lost to the same operational weaknesses that have plagued Ferrari for years. And this brings us to the most important question of all, because what Hamilton does next could determine not just his own future, but Ferrari's championship hopes for years to come. The broader implications of this Baku disaster extend far beyond one weekend. Ferrari's pattern of strategic missteps continues to overshadow their genuine pace improvements, and Hamilton knows it. His fury echoed the frustration of fans who have grown tired of watching operational errors waste the team's potential. For Ferrari's leadership, the scene was all too familiar. They had seen the red cars fly in practice, raising hopes of redemption, only to watch it unravel when it mattered most. The evidence that has now emerged only fuels the narrative that Ferrari continue to stumble in the very moments when perfection is required. The psychological damage to Hamilton could be lasting. He's already admitted to struggling with the SF25's characteristics, and this weekend was supposed to represent a breakthrough. To go from topping practice to a Q2 exit created a gulf of frustration that even Hamilton struggled to hide. But there's another way to look at this. Hamilton's anger wasn't just the reaction of a champion denied. It was the sound of a driver who knows he deserves better. And sometimes, that kind of fury can be exactly what a team needs to finally change their ways. The question now is whether Ferrari will learn from this mistake or continue to repeat the same errors that have cost them championships for nearly 2 decades. So here's what we need to watch for in the coming races. Will Hamilton's fury finally force Ferrari to change their decision-making process? Can they find a way to match their raw speed with operational excellence? And most importantly, how many more opportunities like Baku can Hamilton afford to lose before this Ferrari gamble becomes a regret? The evidence from Azerbaijan suggests we're at a crossroads. Either Ferrari learns from this disaster and becomes the team Hamilton needs them to be, or we'll be having this same conversation again and again. What do you think? Can Ferrari fix their strategic problems, or is Hamilton's championship window already closing? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more F1 analysis like this.